Hi everyone, welcome to another Hatton's Model Railways live stream session. And this morning we're covering a SkillsCast, looking at adding various different pieces to our layout to enhance the rock cuttings or quarries or anything else that requires stone, rock and cliff walls on our layouts too. There are some really basic and some really advanced techniques to be able to do this. I'll be covering some more of the basic techniques today, and we'll be looking at the advanced techniques in a future video. So we'll be looking at the products I've got on the screen and various ways to add them onto your layout too. As ever, there's a link in the description below where you can see full information on every product I'm talking about, including stock availability and prices there too. If you'd like to learn anything else regarding these products, feel free to ask any questions you have in the chat, or if you're watching a little later, feel free to put a comment under the video or get in touch directly with our customer experience team. So, adding these to your layout, there's so many great opportunities here, whether we're looking at adding a limestone cutting for a railway to run through, such as those in the Peak District, whether we're looking at running a railway into a quarry, whether we simply just want to add a bit of height to our layout. There are some great ways to get these added, and they really do add quite a bit of definition there too. The easiest way to add these is with the Ready Rocks range that we see here on the screen. These come pre-made out of plaster, pre-painted, exactly as you can see them in the packets there. I'll just show you some on my workbench for a close-up. I'll just take you over there now. And you can see here, some of these are just so easy to attach to your layout. You can see they're completely flat on the bottom, so great to glue straight onto your board with all the detail fully painted and picked out in these particular pieces. So these are fantastic just to lay at the bottom of a cliff, or if you're just wanting a shallow surface, you can have those too. You generally get around 20 in a packet or so, and they are completely different shapes and sizes, so you can really build up quite a natural looking scene. There's various sets with various different heights. The boulder set is taller than the surface rock set, as we can see over here. But we're just going to stick one of these on now, so I'll show you just how easy it is. I've done no preparation at all to this product. It is exactly as it came out of the packet. So just put in a very small amount of our PVA glue, if it wants to come out of the container, that is, which I don't think it is doing, unfortunately. Go for plan B in that case. We'll still use our PVA, but we'll get it out of the container with a cocktail stick instead. So it might take a little longer to put on, but we are still getting a very good covering of the PVA onto the bottom there, making sure we're not taking the PVA too close to the edges so it doesn't overflow when we put that down onto our layout. And then as it's flat, we can just put it straight down firmly and place that where it needs to be. So that'll take a few minutes to dry. So once you've pressed it firmly, hold it for around 10 to 15 seconds in place on your flat surface. You can attach these if you've already put something down, if you're wanting to put them on top of some ballast or some static grass too. You may find that you just need to cut this back a little bit to give it a flatter surface to adhere to, but you will find that that does join on then and help the bonding. So I could, if I wanted, place one of these rocks right down on the grass and glue it there, but you may find that gluing it on a flat surface first and then putting down your flock and your static grass around it will build up a more natural looking surface and give a better surface for the rocks to attach to too. So we're going to build up a few more of those. For the rest of these, I'm just going to temporarily attach them with blue tack just for the purposes of today's video. I would recommend gluing these down, preferably with PVA glue if you're putting them straight onto your baseboard. On some surfaces, such as plastics, if you are finding you're attaching them to those, you may find super glue best, but in most cases, I would recommend PVA glue. But for today, just to show you how well they go together, I'll just be using good old blue tack on this session. So I'll put you back over to the mini camera. And this is just a great way to build these up naturally, making sure, looking for any areas where they can join next to each other, looking for the patterns and the different setups that you can get there. So if we're looking here, for example, we can see that this particular curve will sit up very nicely indeed against a rock that we've already put in there. Have a look at some rock formations that you may see in real life. Just looking for little gaps where these can slide in. Each piece is different, so it's great to have them all set out as I've got here in front of me, just to check the certain bits and where to put them in. What you can do then is once they're in and settled, you can fill in the little gaps either with some paint, or you can put flock or scatter in those gaps too to build up a bit of a surface. This is just building the rock base at the bottom now, so maybe alongside of a creek or a riverbed. And again, building up whatever you want to the edge of this is the key there. You can put the rocks on top of each other. You can pile them up as high as you like. Just bear in mind again that because they are 3D, you may find there's some very small gaps in between the particular rocks. And that may be something you want to go back with later and put a little bit of filler in there, or again, just add some little shrubs and bushes to disguise those particular holes, as you can see there on the setup here. But you can start to build quite a lot on there. And John, that's a fantastic suggestion there. You can build up some of the tours in Dartmoor. You can build up the scenes in the Peak District, in the Lake District there too, with these available. Now, you will notice that this is quite a slow method, shall we say. These rocks are really good for building up if you're wanting them pre-painted, if you're not too confident at painting your own surfaces. However, I have got to be honest, it does work out quite expensive if you are covering a large space. My recommendation for these would be having them right next to your track and then building up scenery behind in bulk, maybe of a slightly less quality. But if you built a whole 4-foot scene out of these rocks, quite high indeed, you would be spending quite a bit of money. If you wanted to, that's absolutely fine, of course. You do get a fantastic finish with these particular rocks that you see here. Just again, bringing them up so you can see them in situ there. This is just a small selection from the boulders and the surface rocks pack. Again, just finding some little gaps and gullies for them to appear in. Leaving some natural gaps too. Again, look at photos online where you'd find maybe their little pool or something, or a little patch of grass in between the rocks there too. If you're a hill walker or you do live in a rocky part of the country, of course, it's a lot easier to see the various rock formations out there, but I would recommend having a look at some photos online or some other inspiration there too. So we're still sticking pretty flat at the moment. I'll just move that out of the way. I'll show you some great ways to get these on a sideways surface too. Whether you're putting them on a ramp or whether you're putting them on a vertical surface, you can do this very easily indeed. I'm just, for the purposes of today, going to use our cardboard box as our surface. It's not something I recommend usually, but just to get the idea of how these look vertically, I will put them on here. So having a look at some of our set pieces, I've selected the ones that have the most straightest edges on the bottom. So you can see here, this particular example and another example that I have here. Again, these come with the purely flat backs, as you can see on the screen. So what I'm going to do, again, I would be putting a little bit of glue on just for the purposes of temporarily attaching them. I'll use blue tack. But again, scroll back a little bit in the video just to see how we covered those with the PVA there previously. So just for the sake of putting them on, so I can take them off again afterwards. And of course, this is good if you're just not quite sure where you want to match them up on your layout. You can temporarily apply them in this way. And then when you are permanently applying them to your layout, you can use glue. Well, you should use glue to fit them down onto your board. So I'm just making sure that I'm putting the flattest surfaces against each other, building up a really tight scene, as you can see here. I will then continue to build this further up. Just pop those in there, and then this gives us the base then for what would be our cliffside wall. I'll just put that up to the camera for you there. So at the moment, I've got to admit, it's not looking like much. But once you've started to build up this surface, once you've started to fill the gaps with a little bit of paint in there, maybe some of the smaller rocks being added to add a bit of texture, such as the talus rocks that you can see here, this would really start to build up to be something quite spectacular. At the bottom, I'd recommend building up either a little layer of plaster or a little layer of flock just to the bottom there to give you a natural break. But you can see that our fully vertical cliff face is taking place. I'll just put that on show so you can see it on the main camera too. You can see there now, we've already got some flat rocks building up to where our cliff face is going to be. So you can see that this does become quite effective. As we mentioned, though, with the parts that come available, you are paying for convenience here. With these provided ready painted and ready made to plant, they come in at about £17 a pack, and you do get between 25 and 30 of these rocks in that place. So if you are building up a small scene, it can work out really quite effective to buy 1 or 2 of these packs ready made. If you're building quite a rocky layout or a quarry or something along those lines, I would recommend having a look at another method. And this is one, basically, you're now making the rocks yourself. Rather than buying them pre-painted in the packs and set up, you are making exactly the same pieces as here. So great question there, Philip, as well. The rocks that you see here on the scene are made from plaster. So these are pre-made by Woodland Scenics, the various ranges that I'm showing here on the screen. What I'm about to show you now is exactly the same rocks in their original form, although these are a little bit larger. These are the rock mold pieces. So these are exactly what Woodland Scenics use themselves to make these rocks for sale, and they can pass these on to you. You can pick up the molds for around £10, and then standard plaster or some of the lightweight plaster that we sell too will do you absolutely fine to go into this. I do recommend a lightweight plaster just because, well, it's lightweight, so you won't find it damages your board if you are putting a lot of rock down onto your layout. And just to show you again a close-up of one of those molds, showing you that a lot of the larger rocks and surfaces and faces are covered in the molds. So if you are building up a larger rock face, if you're building up something along those lines, these really do work out quite cost effective. I'd say if you're covering more than probably about the size of this area here, really, or if you're just building up a small scene with some rocks, maybe you want a hill with a couple of little outcrops of rock inside it, I would recommend going for these sets. Otherwise, have a look at the particular molds. They are very easy to use. And to use them, all you need to do is mix up some of the plaster, whether you're choosing your own plaster or the recommended plaster that we mentioned before, the lightweight plaster. Pour it straight into the mold. Make sure the molds are cleaned first with a little bit of liquid soap if you've used them before. Make sure the mold's fully supported. Leave it to dry for a few hours, and then the molds are flexible, so very gently you will be able to press your rock out of that. It will come unpainted. You won't have any paint in there at all. You can mix a little bit of paint into the plaster if you wish to give you a base colour. Have a look online for some tips on how to do that. It is something that's a little tricky to master, but you can pre-colour plaster if you wish. But your moulds will come out of there then. And then with a little bit of paint, whether you're using some of the scenic paints that we have available or some watercolours that you already have in your collection, paint them in a very similar style to what you see here, mainly giving some brush strokes along the tops to give you your base colour, and then lighter areas where the rock has worn away, darker areas where moss or rain or any other items that have collected in between the gaps. This is best to do with paint washes rather than direct paints themselves, allowing it to leak over the layout and then rubbing it away to give the natural finish that we have here. And this is exactly the same finish that Woodland Scenics have done on their own rocks. You will end up with rocks that look exactly the same as what we have on the screen here. With the plaster, you will, or you should, shall I say, Make sure that you've got a completely flat surface when you're taking it off. This will help again to give you the flat surface like we have already on the ready rocks to be able to plant those onto your layout. But you can really see the size difference there in what is available in the molds versus what is available in the ready rock range too. But as always with a lot of these sessions, it really is down to personal preference. It also depends on what layout you're building. If you're building a huge quarryscape and you really need something to cover a lot of area, have a look at something like the rock molds that are available, and you can pick those up. If you're looking at something where you just want a little diorama, maybe a small rocky outcrop on your layout, and you want to add it very quickly indeed, do have a look at the likes of the Ready Rock range available right now. If you want to click the link in the description, you can find more information on the molds and the Ready Rock kits that we have available. We have several of them available right now that you can pick up, showing all different styles of rocks. And again, just to put some more of those shapes into the scene there, you'll see that no two are the same, and there's some great opportunities to build these up. And of course, one of the best things about both of these skills is they are applicable to almost every model railway scales. None of these are scale specific. Some of the larger rocks will be smaller rocks in the larger scales. So what you might consider a huge boulder may be a small stone in O gauge. But at the same time, that really gives you the benefit here. These are non-scale specific. So whether you're an N-gauge modeler, HO, double O, you name it, you really can use these on your layout. And if you're not feeling too confident on your skills, they're so easy to attach from the Ready Rocks range. If you are thinking of learning something new, or you're covering a large area on your layout, have a look at the rock molds with some plaster. I can see there's already some great tips for applying these from people who've done it before in the chat there too. So it's great to see some of you out there already using these to create fantastic rock faces on your layout. So I hope you found out a little bit more today. If you are enjoying these sessions, don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel with many more of these skills casts, covering the basic skills of model railways and also the basic skills of railway operation too. So we can really help you get started if you're a beginner on detailing and adding to your layout. Of course, everything we've seen here today is available right now on our website, so don't forget to head over to that link in the description. Don't forget to join us for future videos on our channel, whether you're on YouTube or on Facebook, and we will see you again in the future. So take care and see you next time. Goodbye.